Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my baby, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Wow. Good evening. We got a whole bunch of you filing on. Thanks so much for joining us. Terry's in the house. It was a busy day out in the back 40, Terry. Doing some spring cleaning, I saw. Tricia, how you doing? How are the perks running down in Windsor Way? Richard Dunlop in Ottawa area. And again, if anybody hasn't seen any of Richard's ads, if you're looking for CFN jersey like this one, that's the man to talk to. Dave Gillis out in Saskatchewan. Nice to see you, Dave. Madcam Plastics. Nice to see you, A-Rod. Klassen. We got Pete LeDuc. Yeah, baby. Barry's with us. Lloyd, listen, guys, we have an incredible show. Absolutely incredible show. I can't wait to get to it. So I don't want to waste any of your time, but I do want to say hello to all of you that are watching. It is a pleasure each and every Monday to join you, our CFN community, and some of the great things that we do. Alyssa Lloyd's in the house. I know why you're here, Alyssa, and thanks so much for being a part of what we're going to be doing tonight. Camp McIntosh is here. Yeah, baby. And we will be in Camp McIntosh September 23rd, the weekend of. We're going to be doing a post momentarily in regards to that. But that is number 3 when it comes to the CFN retreats, and OFC Nation will be joining us. I want to first talk about this incredible hoodie. This is a Slaunch Donkey hoodie. And I love to be honest with you, I love the quality. Outside of my walleye one from last cast, this is probably my second favorite hoodie. And if you know Tyler Brooks, he will set you up. The Slaunch Donkey Guide Service and Lure Company will be willing to take any of you and all of your orders. These are very reasonable for the quality. They're very thick. So Tyler, and of course, all those fantastic people over at Slaunch Donkey, thank you so much. I just found my second most favorite hoodie. There are some fantastic things that are going on behind the scenes, front and center, depending on how you're looking at and where you were this weekend. Lots of community efforts, whether it be river cleanups, maybe you are fin clipping, maybe you are taking eggs out of some trout, perhaps maybe you're doing a fish lift. There's a lot of fantastic things that are going on, and we want to showcase them as much as we possibly can. So I can't think of a better time to start it than right now. And I want to personally thank Pete Fisher from Northumberland News. It's not often that folks are so giving of their content as Pete was in this situation, but big shout out to Steve Shaw, who reached out to Pete from Northumberland News and allowed us to use his video that I edited up a little bit to just tell a quicker story, if you will, of some of the incredible work that was done this past weekend. Have a look.
How long has this been going on for?
It actually started back when I was a teenager, so that would be back in the 70s. My dad, George Cretesi, Doug May, Bernie Flesh, those are the guys that initiated this and got it going. Ministry of Natural Resources come on board and they started doing it and getting it going. So it's a fish lift. We've been doing it for a lot of years. The purpose is to put as many rainbows as we can get up, no more than 200. And they reproduce in the Baltimore Creek. It's a really good fishery up there. It sends a lot of little rainbows back to Lake Ontario that are a little bigger than the other rainbows, and they survive better. There's a lot of predator fish in Lake Ontario, So the bigger we can send the rainbows back, the more they survive. It's the Ganaraska Conservation Authority doing it this year, and Cody is a new biologist on deck. He's doing a great job as far as I'm concerned, but he will take it to the next level, I think. Eventually they'll get better records. We used to do it. We used to measure them, count the number of lamprey marks on them, male or female, green or ripe or spent. We used to do a very exclusive one, and the ministry wanted that for records. Now that it's more of a community project, the fishing is phenomenal around here. Lake Ontario is a great fishery, and we just do it to get kids involved so they get a chance to see what fish are like up close. They can handle them, they catch them, they put them in the basket, and some kids never get a chance to do that.
Some unbelievable work. I love seeing stuff like that, especially hands-on grassroots fish management. That it's awesome to see. And what's even more awesome is the number of young people that attended. I'm not sure who the gentleman was, but hats off to you. You did a fantastic job narrating that video. Pete Fisher, again, thanks so much for the video itself so that we could present it to you folks. As you can see, there's not a lot involved. You have a set of waders, you can do an awful lot of good for your fishery, an awful lot of good. And all you need is a good set of waders. But something simple like this, like a fish lift, it's very easy to get involved. You are surrounded by a conservation authority. Doesn't matter where you are, probably all over Canada. You are in a region, an authority that has a vested interest, or a group that has a vested interest in the conservation of your area. Get in touch with them if you want to do something like this. There's all kinds of it going on, and we want to do a better job of promoting it because, as I said, we need to get more youth involved. So cool things like fish lifts where they're able to see the fish, touch the fish, move the fish, what have you. These are some of the hands-on stuff that we at CFN love to see, and I'm sure our community feels the same. Of course, that is events that are going on now. An event that is going to be going on very shortly. We are pleased to have Mike Consul join us to tell us more.
Hello,
Mikey, what's up?
what is up, Scotty Martin?
How you doing, bud? You've been busy, man.
In non-fishing attire right now.
Yeah, you have. You've been a busy lad as of late, and I know you want to get caught up with some of the stuff that you're doing behind you. So why don't we get right to what it is we want to talk to tonight, Mike?
All right, so let's share my screen there for those of you that noticed, and I know there's at least over 100 of you that noticed, because the registration for the CFN Fish Off Spring Tournament opened Friday night. Literally, I posted it, I don't know what time, but less than a minute after I posted it, people started registering. And the last time I looked, there was like over 100 anglers already registered. And that was on Friday. And so I went to bed Friday night. I posted it Friday evening, went to bed Friday night, and there was already 100 anglers that have registered. So it is official. Yeah, over 100 already.
Holy smokes.
Over 50 teams already. So all you got to do is go to cfnfishoff.com, and you'll see this poster right there. And it is time, folks. It is time. May long weekend, 4 weeks long. It is time to register. Find a partner, find a teammate, go on the website, register your team. Fun times. And we would love to thank Shimano. And Scotty, you could talk about it. Shimano has stepped up again.
Yes, and in a big way. So, folks, hang on to your hats. We are going to be giving Symmetry combos just like this one because of our good friends over at Shimano. And I can't thank Lee enough for setting this up. But let's just say we have a couple more than we were counting on combos. So there's that. So stay tuned to that.
Yeah. First place team, second place team, third place team, first weekend, first week, second week, third week, fourth week. Like, we're giving away combos. And you know what's amazing is you can catch an 8-inch perch and it'll win you a pair of Symmetry combos. So unlike any other tournament, it's free, and we give away a ton of free stuff. just
And
for
that,
fishing.
that is so true. It's probably one of the best multi-species tournaments around. That
The
doesn't
best,
cost
one of the
you.
best. What are you talking about? One of the best.
I know you're working on a second. That tournament, unfortunately, it does cost you money, but some of the prizes are pretty cool. But this, for an online multi-species tournament, you're right, Mike. Let's just call it as it is, because of its reasonable price, which doesn't cost a thing. And we are working on some of the bugs with the apps. Mike, I had a couple people reach out to me today in regards to the fact that they don't have a smartphone. They just use GoPros. I know we're working on that glitch. So all of you be
So not a
patient. There.
glitch, because you do need internet capability, but we are trying to work out a way so that transitioning from our old way to the app doesn't exclude everyone. So we're trying to figure out a way how we could do both.
Right.
Ideally, everyone transitions to the app, but we know some people might have old phones or phones that don't have internet access, or have a cell phone but not a smartphone, because you do need a smartphone for it.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out a way. You know what? If you've ever been part of it before, we want you to be part of it again. We're giving you these options to be part of it. So figuring out a way, everyone who wants to be in it can be in it as a participant. 100%. We will find a way.
I'm starting to really get excited too to see some of these team combos. You know, Jim Wilson was putting his hat out there for a partner. It looks like we've got Tyler Desjardins and Luke Northmore. They're going to team up together.
Adele has a new partner.
Adele and Andrew are going to be hooking up together. I think that's awesome to see. So I'm really starting to love the dynamics of the teams that we're going to have. So we're in good shape. I like what I see so far. The feedback and engagement so far has been phenomenal, Mike. Considering you just
like that. It
Yeah.
just turns on like that. That's how amazing the CFN Fish Off is. So for those of you that have not registered yet, just a little bit of incentive. Make sure to register before May 1st, because we have our early bird draw. All you got to do, sign up your team, and you will qualify to win this early bird draw. And there's some amazing stuff there. And I love this little tackle. I don't even know what to call it, a little tackle box. And it's filled with all this stuff. So thank you to our sponsors for putting this little prize pack together. Sign up before May 1st, and then your team name will be in the raffle, and we'll see. You know what I just realized, Scotty? I talked about catching an 8-inch perch to win 2 Shimano combos. Because of this early bird draw, you don't even have to catch anything. You might enter 4-week tournament, get skunked all 4 weeks, but you still win a prize. So
100%.
I know.
100%. No,
right.
Awesome stuff. And if people are registering, Mike, or looking to register, I know Jeanette was just asking if she just wants to fish by herself. I know you gave some great advice in one of the chat groups. Sign up a kid. If you have a daughter, granddaughter, I don't know, kid across the street, you know, as I said, it is a team event, but it doesn't necessarily mean that both anglers have to participate. But I mean, if you want to reach out to, say, Bob Azumi and get him as a partner, by all means, we're all for it.
Yeah, all you need is a partner. But I know how some people have done 2 things. One, they just post on Facebook, like Andrew or Adele, post on Facebook, hey, I need a partner. That's one way to find a partner. Or sign up as a solo angler, and then all the solos from the same provinces will pair you up, and that's another way. But definitely sign up. Now, 2 quick things. I'm going to be done in 1 minute. So 2 quick things. I just want to plant the seed. We do have our free CFN Fish Off multi-species tournament. But for those who might be a little more competitive and you think, you know what, I want to win potentially a $2,000 prize for all the species I catch, Anglers Atlas is putting together multi-species madness. There's one in July, Ontario. There we have Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. Different dates, 10-day tournaments, as many species as possible. Each species is 1 point, and whoever has the most points takes home the prize. Finish in the top 10, and there is cash prizes. But I'll leave it there. If you want more information, go to anglersatlas.com. And then, oh my gosh, Scotty, you mentioned it at the top. Next week, we'll give more details, but we have another CFN retreat in Ontario over a weekend and much closer than Horwood. So for those who are saying, I would love to meet the community, but it's just too far or too expensive, we are creating something especially for you. Scotty will be there. I will be there. We'll have a live CFN fish off during the weekend with daily prizes. Come join us. More details next week.
Fantastic, Mike. As always, a professional job, dude. Well done.
All right. Have a great show, everyone. I'll be watching.
Right on, dude. You take care of yourself. Okay. We have so many people in. I can't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We've got so many glitches. I apologize, folks. We haven't lost any of our guests. Thank the Lord. But yeah, some fantastic stuff going on. Of course, some of our summer events, as we just mentioned, the CFN Fish Off is coming in May. June, we're going to be starting these things called Lake Days. And for those who joined us up at Gagnon's on Friday, and when I say us, it was Steve Shaw and Jim McLaughlin. We did a bit of a fish fry. It was kind of a cute community event. It was kind of neat. We ended up feeding a whole bunch of fish to a whole bunch of people that didn't know anything about CFN or OFC Nation. So it was really cool to be able to connect with that. Thanks so much, Justin, and the entire staff at Gagnon's for being such incredible hosts. And it was a great event. And as I said, stay tuned. June, we're going to be definitely doing a Lake Day event. So stay tuned to that. July, of course, we talked about it, July 10th to 16th at Jen Lake Lodge in Saskatchewan. That is our Western retreat, and there are still spots available for that. So if you're looking to possibly do a fishing trip and you don't know too much about the people you're going to be going with, and maybe you want, someone with you that knows a thing or two, this is a great opportunity for all you folks, say, on the border of Saskatchewan, in Saskatchewan. A Western retreat is going on at Jan Lake Lodge. So please get a hold of those people to book your seat in August. As Mike mentioned, Horwood Lake Lodge is going to be the site of our 4th annual CFN retreat. This is the highlight of my summer. I can't wait for this. There are still spots available for that. It is going to start on travel day, which is the 14th. The Sunday we arrive officially starts on the 15th, which is the Monday. And then we're booted out on the 20th. But we leave with a lot of great memories, a few extra pounds, some stories, some we can tell, some we can't tell. No, I'm kidding. It's all good. It's a lot of fun. And then, of course, as mentioned, it's September. It is our OFC Nation 1st annual retreat. Now, of course, we have a special guest backstage. But before we do, I want to introduce this incredible lad with some fanfare, and it's well-deserved fanfare. If you didn't know, Cooper Gallant won a pretty prestigious event on the weekend. Have a look. Yeah, baby, there he is, the one and only Cooper Gallant, taking home some hardware from the good folks down in the U.S. Cooper, all I can say, buddy, is congratulations, and I can't think of a more deserved angler.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was quite the week. I'm still in awe and can't believe it all shaped out the way it did, but I'm super thankful and grateful and crazy.
So just to give you a little bit of background, there we are at Gagnon's, and, two of your biggest fans are sitting there looking at their phones, Jim in particular, and he's like, Scotty, Cooper's in 5th. I'm like, no way, he's in 5th. It's the Friday, right? You're in 5th place. But it's neck and neck. I think at that point you had 18 pounds or 17 pounds. Everybody was sort of log jammed. But for you to be able to pull it off in such fashion, dude, tell us a little bit about what it was that brought you home the hardware.
Yeah, I mean, I love smallmouth fishing, and when I got down here, the water was super cold, and I knew they'd be out deep, and it was a good week. I ended up dialing them in pretty good out deep, but I was kind of worried because we had a big warm front come in, and it's that time of year we're around the spawn and things change very quickly. They're moving like crazy. So that was in the back of my mind the whole time. And yeah, we had a big warm front roll in, so I was a little bit worried. I figured I was going to have to adjust and kind of fish by the seat of my pants come tournament day. But second I put my trolling motor down on day one, the water was still cold, and that warm front really didn't do a whole lot. And the fish didn't really do a whole lot of moving, and I was able to track them down and catch them.
I'm beginning to wonder, Coop, and this is just between you and me because no one else is listening. But do you think maybe these tournaments that have smallmouth available, do you think Canadian entries are going to be thrown in the garbage?
No, I hope not.
It just seems, I tell you, and of course we're speaking to a community that loves their smallmouth, and certainly have them dial in, not to the degree of yourself, the snow leopard, and Chris and Corey. Those lads have done us fantastic. But they're, dude, you're there, like you're there, man. And as I met you 4 years ago. And I was told then you were an up and comer. All I thought was, this guy's a gem. I don't know what he's going to do in life, but whatever it is, we're all going to sit back and take off. And that was then. I didn't really even know much about your fishing prowess. And here you are on the main stage accepting a trophy like that. And the fact that, you're now eligible, that's your ticket into the Classic, right?
Yeah. Going to the Bassmaster Classic. I've been there the last probably 6 years watching. From the stand, sitting in the seats, and next year I'll be on that stage. It's pretty crazy. It still really hasn't hit me, but it's going to be an experience of a lifetime, and I can't wait. I know a lot of all my Canadian friends, a bunch of my family's going down. They've already booked some houses, so it's going to be a party. It's going to be a good time, and I cannot wait.
Can't imagine, dude. And the tournament trail is not for the faint of heart. I can only imagine how tired you are, and the fact that you are probably on your way to your next event if you're not already there. Where are you headed, and what are you going to be fishing for?
So the last tournament was just in Tennessee. I made it to Virginia yesterday. I'm here in Virginia now. Tomorrow I have another off day. I'm just going to get some stuff organized, and I got to do some stuff on the computer, and then I start fishing the day after tomorrow for the third stop of the Opens, which is on the James River. It's actually a tidal fishery, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to get another one started.
Well, listen, dude, the outpouring of support from the community, if you're on Facebook or had a chance to go on Facebook alone, never mind Instagram or any of the other social media platforms, there was a huge roar. Everybody just, they're so proud, dude. And as I said, I don't mean to make it sound corny, but dude, it's just awesome to see, the likes of yourself basically achieve your dream, dude. Like, cause that's what this is, right?
Yeah, 100%. And going back to the whole Facebook post and stuff, I appreciate it more than anything. All my friends and family and the whole fishing community, they've all reached out to me, and I haven't got back to everyone yet, but I promise you I will. And again, I appreciate it more than you guys know. And it's pretty awesome. The support surrounded around the whole fishing community has been incredible.
Well, dude, a lot of it is just because of the kind of lad you are. And we so appreciate your time that you're taking tonight. I know you had to fit in, a happy birthday celebration to your grandma. I have no idea what you're up to next. I'm sure you've got TV reporters banging down on your door, not to mention the cavalcade of young girls outside awaiting your autographs. So, dude, you have a lot of work ahead of you, so I'm going to let you get at it. But on behalf of CFN, OFC Nation, and everybody who is a proud Canadian angler, congratulations, dude. You did us proud.
Thanks, Scotty. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for having me on.
Right on. Well, here's a word from our sponsor, and Yvonne is up next for our lady segment. Take care, Coop. Good luck, buddy.
Good one. Thank you.
Yvonne, listen, right off the bat, thanks so much for allowing us to do that. Coop only had a certain amount of time.
Oh, that's fine.
As a
My
lady
God.
CD, it's it's an honor to be able to talk to folks like him, folks like yourself, and to try and fit you all in. I'm just glad that you're all very understanding and appreciative of the time.
That's okay. I'm super happy that he was able to come on the show. I met him at like 10, 12 years ago, and he was like just coming into his teenage years, and him and Danny, they were like two peas in a pod. They were everywhere together, and it's so great to see the success that has come from their teamwork and then as individual anglers as well.
You hit the nail right on the head, because that's exactly what I mean. When I met him, I was told that, you got to watch this guy. He's going to be quite the angler. So for the gents like, say, Big Jim, who have watched Gussie and of course Corey and Chris, do what they're doing. As I said, we're now understanding where Jim is watching those lads when we're watching Coop. But it's just, I don't know. To me, it's awesome to see us down there stealing American hardware, and bringing it home. I think it's fantastic.
I think there's going to be a lot of Canadian anglers making a road trip to the Classic next year, and I'm going to start looking at locations and hotels and stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, not to say I would cheer any Canadian on. It wouldn't matter who you were or what background you're from, but a kid like Cooper Gallant, I might consider making the trek myself, just to cheer a lad like that on, because he does us proud. There's no doubt about it. Now, Yvonne, again, another great segment. Really looking forward to speaking with Emily from Mack Attack Outdoors. But I do know you have some OWA announcements that you want to get to first.
I just wanted to give an update on the Chris McDougall fundraiser that we've been doing. We had a goal of $10,000, and right now we're sitting at $11,230.
Ooh.
Which is great, and it's going to go on until May 1st. A good portion of that money is going to go towards a bathroom renovation, because it's not as accessible as it should be for Chris. She's still dealing with some mobility issues, so we're so thankful of the response that we've received. It's been great. I mean, CFN made a great donation. Steve Shaw and his family on behalf of his daughter, and I think it got to Chris's work community as well. And of course, the fishing community. It's just been fantastic. So on behalf of Chris and her family, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone's support in that.
And I will say this, Chris is with us this evening. And Chris, as I said, we're all with you. We can't thank you enough for everything you've done for our community, whether it be CFN, OWA, OFC Nation. You've always been a huge supporter. So please take what it is that we give you, and do so because it's our appreciation of you. You've done so much, and it's the least we can do to give back.
Yeah. And we put out registration for a steelhead event that we're having April 23rd, 24th. It's on the Wilmot Creek in Newcastle. It's sold out in 4 hours. So if you are interested, you can still go on the registration page and sign up for the waiting list, because sometimes it happens that people will drop out, and we will want to fill those spots.
Awesome.
We're still working on other events for the rest of the year. And over the weekend, we had a booth at the Muskie Odyssey that was in Hamilton. Great show, great attendance. The Muskie community is quite different than the community that you might see that is, more geared toward bass or walleye or whatever. And the vendors, again, they're different and so interesting to see, especially the bait makers, all their designs. I did attend one of the seminars. It was by Lisa Goudier, who we've had on the show.
Yes.
She did a fantastic job. She knocked it out of the park. She had people laughing and engaged, and she was so funny. I believe they record them, so at some point it will be posted online, I imagine. So once that comes out, I'll share the link. And I'd like to have her back on the show. I think it's been close to 2 years, I think.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll tell you, of all of your guests, and I'm not centering any of them out or slighting them in any way, but there was something about Lisa. I tell you, I connected with her almost immediately. She has an incredible sense of humor. Not all of it can be displayed
Yeah.
here, but man, I tell you, she makes me laugh,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping to get out fishing with her.
Yeah. We went out for dinner. Yeah, we went out for dinner the evening before on Friday, and her girlfriend was with us too. Again, she's another extremely funny person, and they are so well matched. They just, I don't know, there's just this vibe about them
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
great. So I had a really good time spending a couple hours with them.
Fantastic. So on tonight's show,
Mhm.
we are talking to Emily from Mack Outdoors.
Yes.
Again, Alyssa is with us, and I can't thank Alyssa enough for sort of matching this together. But it has really come together, and Emily she's raring to go. She's raring to go. I can tell this is her shtick. She's looking forward to this. But tell me, in the little bit of research that you've done, Yvonne, what sort of took you by surprise when you started reading up about Mack Outdoors?
Well, I spoke to I didn't see her at the Peterborough tackle swap, but I did see Alyssa, and she gave me her card, Emily's card, and she said, "Yeah, this is a friend of mine. They've recently opened a tackle store in Bancroft, and you know, just she was just networking and giving me a connection, and then I thought, let's have her on the show, and it's a new tackle store for people to visit. And when, they're going up through Bancroft, and I looked on their website, saw what they sell. And she seems like a very nice lady. We talked backstage as you know, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that because I have lots of questions for her.
There you go. So without further ado, here is Emily McKinnon, where I believe the Mack is where you get the Mack Outdoors. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Emily.
Thank you so much, and thanks, Alyssa. I really appreciate it. I see you watching, so I'm very excited about the networking connection that we were able to make, and I'm nervous but excited to be here. It's great.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So I'll let Yvonne sort of take it away. I know she has a list of questions for you, and there's so much that we want to learn. I'm just going to do what I do with producing some of the videos and behind the scenes and what have you. But take it away, Yvonne.
Well, I was, as I said, looking on the website and read the About Us section. Before we talk about the store, it says that you've been fishing for your whole life, and
Yes.
you and your husband are also hunters as well as anglers. Could you tell us a little bit more about your fishing and hunting background?
Sure. So I have been fishing and hunting my entire life since I could. In fact, my parents kept some pretty embarrassing pictures of me with fish, so that's fun. But yeah, I've been hunting ever since I could as an apprentice as well as on my own. I've so far shot 2 moose, a calf, and a bull 2 years ago. When I first opened the shop, actually, I shot my first bull, and amazing. Anybody that has a chance to go hunting, I highly recommend it. Whether you think moose are friends or deer are friends, they are, but they are also very tasty. So don't knock it till you try it. And then fishing, grew up fishing with my daddy. Is a steel line trout fisherman from way back. So did that with him, as well as fishing on the St. Lawrence with my grandpa for pike. So always been in my heart, and it's been something. Actually, I never really did a lot of bass fishing until I met my husband, and he got me into the bass fishing, and haven't turned a blind eye since. So
I really appreciate that story, Emily. I often joke about it with folks. God love my dad, God rest his soul, but he was much like your dad when it comes to targeting lake trout. And we go out with the 6-foot rod with the steel line, some ridiculous bottom bouncer. I'm pretty sure he had a Williams on, and we would drag this thing all over the lake. I mean, it was the cleanest lure on the whole lake. It was fish. But I often wonder, as I think back, how did I get into fishing? Because long hours out targeting lake trout with your dad, as you can attest, it's not a lot of fun. You have to have patience upon patience, or you're going to be dealing with the old man.
Yes.
But the other thing was, you can't cast a lake trout outfit, right? So I don't know. To me, I'm not really sure what got me into fishing per se, because the initial introduction to it was something to be desired.
Oh, and that I have to say, my dad is skilled and very patient, because I've broke off on bottom setting that hook a few times and losing quite a fair bit of line, and he just turns around and catches the rest of that line and brings it up without a bat of an eye and hands me his rod so we can keep going. And ever since then, I just been hooked on fishing, really.
Attaboy, Dad. Good for you.
Yeah.
Take it away, Yvonne.
And again, I noticed on the website, it said that you had been an RPN for 10 years, and then you switched careers, which I assume that you is when you opened the store.
Yes.
And when was it that you opened?
And so I opened July 2019. So got 6 months or 5 months in before good old COVID took over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before that, I was a nurse, an RPN, and I had my daughter, and I was off for the 12 months. And when I went back to work, it didn't click anymore. It wasn't where my heart laid, and I always wanted to open a sports shop of some sort. And after seeing how, I mean, thank you, Canadian Tire, but having to always travel somewhere else to get that St. Croix or Garmin or something just a little bit better than what you could get in town, I said, enough's enough. Let's start somewhere and open one up. So that's what happened. In 2019, we opened the doors and haven't looked back since.
It's great. And it's doing well, the store? Like, are you getting a lot of traffic?
Yes, we're right downtown Bancroft. So even though COVID had shut us down for a significant amount of time, the foot traffic alone, being right downtown, was phenomenal. People were, the locals were so welcoming for a new tackle shop, because we have great areas around here and didn't have the tools necessarily to target all those species, and I hope to fill that void. And so far, it's been well received by a lot of people. So
I noticed you're a Shimano authorized dealer too.
Yes, absolutely. You mentioned Lee, and he. One thing I have to say, the fishing community is like no other I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah, you get the odd person that's, oh, I won't tell you where I'm going to get that fish, but other than that, they welcomed me with open arms, and it's been amazing. Lee's been fantastic. He's been right up there since I opened, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, he's very, very supportive.
Steve's got a question from our audience. What is your favorite fish species to target? Oh, and just because Scotty is on, you don't need to say walleye.
To be honest, we rarely ever target walleye, only a few times, but I love the largemouth bass. The topwater bite is my absolute favorite. Then it has to be lake trout. We do a lot of lake trout fishing, whether it's me and my dad or me out fishing my husband with steel line fishing. But I'd have to say bass, and then trout, and then pike. I love fishing pike.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And tasty too.
Oh, so good. Bacon wrapped on the barbecue.
Oh,
delicious.
Never tried that.
Oh, it's maybe don't try it, because you won't want it any other way.
I noticed again on the website that you have interviews with other anglers, like Jeff Gustafson, Keith Beasley, from Canada in the Rough, and I haven't watched any. Oh, Scotty's got his OWA coffee.
Oh yeah, baby.
So again, if anybody's interested, we'll be posting the link to your store. I think Steve will put it up soon. And have a chance, look at these various interviews of hunters and anglers, and They look really interesting. I'm going to go back tomorrow and have a look at them myself.
Yeah, that was one way that I chose to not only kind of bridge that gap between YouTube stars or professional anglers and hunters and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily get to chat to, as well as it kind of kept me busy during the off time of COVID. So but the guys that I talked to were so welcoming to even reach out. I thank you, Facebook, but I reached out and I said the worst thing they could say is no, and yet a majority of them. It started off with Ian West from Fear of Fishing. He's now East Hill guy, and then Keith Beasley was amazing. He was so down to earth, and then it went to Corey, and then it went to Jeff, I think. So hopefully I can get a few more guys on there soon, but just between doing mom stuff and shop stuff and fishing, running out of time.
So can you tell us a little bit about the store, like the types of products? I know that you carry men's and women's clothing as well.
Yeah. So again, I opened the shop to kind of bridge that gap. We're about an hour and a half away from any sort of city. So for brand name outdoor clothing, you couldn't necessarily get that. And being we're only 45 minutes from Algonquin Provincial Park, it was something that was lacking. So the clothing that I carry would be Columbia, Tentree, Billabong, Under Armour, and then I carry some random brands such as Raw Fish. And then for our fishing necessities, I keep well stocked in Williams, Northern King, American Bait Works, Z-Man. I have a few Jacko products. The Perfect Jig, Brandon's amazing. And Strike King, and oh gosh, what else do I have? Every little thing. And then for rods, we have St. Croix, which are really amazing. Shimano rod and reels, Daiwa rods and reels. We also started carrying Halo, so an up and coming brand from the States. And if you ever get a chance to purchase a Halo rod, I highly recommend. They're top notch. And that's about it that I have. And then hopefully later on, my 5-year plan, we'll be able to find a bigger location and expand and offer more archery stuff as well as firearms and ammo when we get to that point. But the shop just isn't big enough for all of it.
Just off topic, I know that you're good friends with Alyssa Lloyd, who has been on this show as well. And so I have to ask, do you fly fish?
I don't, but it is on the bucket list. She actually took me out for my first musky fish last year or the year before, and it was amazing. We had 3 follows, and then Alyssa grabbed the rod and she landed one. I mean, I should have pissed at her, but I also welcome the fact that she landed one. So it was I'm hooked. I got myself some used musky gear, and hopefully we'll get out again this year, and maybe I'll outfish her, or at least win.
Emily, we've got a question from the audience. Fishing with Andrew is asking, do you have the Shimano SLX bait caster rod? It's the 7-foot 2-piece.
I think I do, actually. If not, I definitely have them coming. They were just shipped from the States, so hopefully I'll get them in the next 2 weeks.
Right on. And Steve is asking, do you cater all 4 seasons, hard water and, of course, open water?
Absolutely. We cater to everything. Right now, I'm in the transition, so if you come to the shop, you will see a bare wall that I just haven't got up my high horses to re-switch the wall. But we carry augers, so we carried the Ion augers, Strike Master. We had a few otter huts, Eskimo huts, and Rapella huts. So we definitely cater to all 4 seasons. We're open all year round. and it's why not cater to something, especially in a place I love? Why not be accessible for everybody?
You have, I know we were talking about this a little bit backstage, on your Facebook page, on the Mack Attack Outdoors Facebook page, you have a lot of giveaways, great items, and it looks like you get fairly good response. I would strongly recommend anybody watching, like the page and just, receive all the updates that you post.
Yeah, it's that's one thing that has really helped us over the last few years, especially during our quiet time, is to offer those types of products. And for a sticker draw, a $20 sticker will get you a spot. And I mean, you can't win if you don't play. That sounds terrible to me, but I mean, it's fantastic. And then we helped out when we first opened with the Bancroft Fish Hatchery. We offered a crossbow package that all the money received from that crossbow package went to the fish hatchery. And that's something that's just, it's amazing here. It helps restock some of the lakes that have been fished quite hard. And I mean, I had no idea about the fish lift. Like, Scotty, that video was amazing. I definitely want to take part in that next year, probably.
Awesome.
But, and that's the thing, we were such a small, tight-knit community that, I mean, if we can help out with anything, we're there. Because if we don't help out, who's going to? So.
Right. And speaking of giveaways, Steve will be posting the link to the OWA page that has the CFN giveaway draw. And Mack Attack Outdoors is providing a $25 gift certificate to spend in the store. So the question, well, actually, you'll have to just go to the website and find out what the question is. But we want you to, people entering, to share the link for this podcast, to like Mack Attack Outdoors, and then just to provide the answer to the question that's there.
That's awesome. Beautiful. As always, Yvonne, such a great job, such a great guest. Emily, any friend of Alyssa's is a friend of mine. But it's so awesome just to see the support from Alyssa, pumping your tires and saying, Scotty, could you? Absolutely. So on behalf of CFN, I know Yvonne's going to close up, but we thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'll leave the last words for you, Yvonne.
Just to echo yourself that, it's so nice, to meet someone in the sort of the retail community for fishing and hunting. And I guess that was one of the things I was curious about. Like, when people come in the store, are they quite comfortable approaching you, asking you for product knowledge? And even, I guess, even when they're in your store, do they ask about, fishing opportunities in the area as well?
Very much. Don't get me wrong. There is a few folks that when they see a woman at the counter, they kind of go, oh gosh. And I get a lot, do you like to fish? And it's like, I wouldn't have opened a tackle shop if I didn't enjoy fishing or know a little bit about it. But it's funny because just even a little bit of conversation with them, a lot of people really turn their head, and I get some great conversations out of a lot of it because they don't necessarily realize that there are a lot of women anglers out there that can kind of outsmart them a lot of stuff. and I am one where knowledge is everything. So if you can spare even a little bit, don't try and keep the special lure a secret. Help these guys out. A lot of them, this is their first time or second time. They don't know the area. So show them your favorite bait. Hey, it might be their favorite bait, and so on and so forth. And just being a little bit more welcoming to people. I mean, we've been in a very negative world lately. So if we can show a little bit of positivity and show them that the angler community is there to help and receive, I mean, that's the best thing that we can do. So I'm always there and up for a great talk. So stop by even if you want to chat.
That's great. Thanks so much for being on the show tonight. You've given us a lot of great information, and I hope that this summer our paths will cross in Bancroft.
Absolutely. Please do. I'm normally at the shop all the time unless I'm out cheering on my hubby at the Renegade Series or out fishing myself. So stop by.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Emily. Thanks for
Bye,
joining
guys.
us. You take care. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo Steve's sentiment yet again, Yvonne, you knocked it out of the park.
No.
We are so blessed and honored to have such great guests here. And Emily, I wish her nothing but the best. But I think she's got her head screwed on right, and her heart's in the right place. And as you mentioned, like that's the one thing I took notice to right away when you went to the Facebook page. Holy smokes, do they do a lot of giveaways? Oh.
Yeah, a lot of community engagement.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Yvonne, as always, I truly appreciate your time. I truly appreciate you setting these up. It means so much that you do this and spend at least once a month, every Monday with us. And again, I don't know what you're going to do for your next guest, but
Neither do I.
I'm glad it's
Not yet.
Right on, Yvonne. Will you take care? For all those who are looking to donate to the GoFundMe account for Chris McDougall, please look at the comments. Steve posted the link.
I forgot to say something about that. I'm sorry to push in. The policy on the GoFundMe page is that you cannot offer any giveaways or draws or anything like that. But on Facebook, we have mentioned that for every $10 donation, a person will get their name into a draw for one of 3 packages. The total of the 3 packages is over $2,700. The first package is a salmon or trout charter with Lloyd Dom, I think or Duam. It's an 8-hour trip for 4 people out of Newcastle, $150 Visa card, Shimano hat and decal, and then some OWA gear. The second package is worth $930. It's an ice fishing package, Lake Simcoe Power Box, 60-inch ice sled, custom sled cover, pop-up hut, little buddy heater, and a few other items. And then the third package is valued at $795. It's a guided muskie trip with Jeremy Foote, so it'll be on Moira Lake. Dadson Blade Baits Lure. There's some donations from Natural Sports, a Shimano Compre 8-foot muskie rod, heavy fast, and then again some Shimano and OWA gear.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
So I'll send you that post so you can put it on CFN and people can see what it is.
And there's the link right there. So as I said, if you haven't already, please do. It's for a really good cause. And if you have already given a donation, I know on behalf of Yvonne, myself, and Chris, we can't thank you enough for your generous support.
Okay.
Yvonne, another great episode. Thanks again. Go have yourself a great meal, and thanks for the great work.
Okay. Thanks, Scotty. See you next month.
Right on. And here's a word from our sponsors.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
So it's just you and there's Jay now, Lawrence. I have the panel. I have the esteemed panel. I've seen Jim, but our thoughts are with him.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He is doing his best to be a heck of a husband, and I know he's got Tammy in tow of the Ottawa area. Nothing to be alarmed. It is a scheduled visit to the doctor, so nothing to be concerned about. But we hope they get home safely, and hopefully we get an answer from the doctors. But, gentlemen, Cooper Gallant. I know, Jay, you were chomping at the bit to step in there and have a few words. I just can't thank Cooper enough for spending the little bit of time that he did with us. It meant the world. But tell us what it means to you to see a kid of his age, his stature, now up with the elite.
Well, I think Yvonne touched on we're for many years now, Cooper and Danny, like they've just been part of the community, right? And my dealings with them have always been great. In fact, in 2015, down here at a Turkey Point on Lake Erie, the Ontario Bass Nation hosted the Ontario qualifier at a Turkey Point, and I was delegated to be the main contact person for the event. And we had the meeting on the Friday night in a tent overlooking Lake Erie at a Turkey Point. And the meeting was done, the rules meeting, everybody went home. Well, Cooper and Danny were waiting for a ride. And if anyone knows Cooper and Danny, they're always bumming rides, especially when they were, they couldn't even drive, right? But they show up at these events and kick ass. So long story short, I'm there and I'm putting chairs and tables away, and they jumped in and helped me put chairs and tables away while we were cleaning up, and without even a flinch. And they've just always just been two great young men, and I know that there's a young man upstairs here that really looks up to those two a lot. And I think that Cooper, I think that through all of this, he may not realize how many anglers look up to him, not just the younger ones, but all of us alike. And he's just a naturally gifted angler. And the fact he's going to a classic, it doesn't surprise me one bit. And maybe the fact that he's going already, I'll say already, because I didn't expect it to be this year or next year or even maybe a couple years from now, but not surprised he's going. So Yvonne touched on the fact that there's going to be a lot of people in Knoxville, Tennessee next March. I know that we were already planning on going. Our family likes to go to the Classic. It's just a great holiday. If you love fishing, you don't have to be into bass fishing to enjoy a Bassmasters Classic. The expo itself is probably one of the best fishing trade shows in North America, if not the world. And to be able to go there and cheer on Cooper, I was at Grand Lake when Charles Sim fished at the Classic on Grand Lake out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and seeing Charles backstage just before he weighed in, what was something else. And I look forward to sharing that experience in Knoxville with a lot of good Canadian friends of Cooper. So it's going to be a long wait for next March, but can't wait for it to happen.
Well worth it indeed, Lawrence. Outside of ICAST, I would say the Classic is the biggest event from an angler's perspective. I know there's some folks that might argue that point with some of the tarpon tournaments and sturgeon tournaments and what have you, but the Classic and ICAST, I think, are the two biggest events when it comes to angling. And the fact that we have a Canadian, in fact, we're going to probably have two, if not more, involved in it, I think is truly a testament to the level of angling, or at least the level of anglers we have here in Canada. Would you agree, Lawrence?
Oh yeah, the Johnson brothers, Jeff, Gussie, and now Cooper. I mean, there, yeah, and yeah. So, and Charles, right? I mean, he's given it. He's always there. He's always around. Maybe not qualifying all the time, but he's always right on the edge. So yeah, we've got Canadians representing us well. And it's not just the Classic, right? You go to any of these Bassmaster tournaments and they're big crowd draws. I mean, just on the other side of the St. Lawrence River, little town of Waddington, a tiny town of nothing. And the tournament comes there for 4 days. The roads are closed. There's police doing, controlling traffic. It's a carnival. There's things for the kids to do, jumping castles, and it's just a carnival for the whole family. It's so neat to see. Look, I'll be the first to admit tournament fishing isn't for everybody. And if you look at the big picture of fishing and tackle sales, tournament anglers is just, it's a microscopic percentage of the overall fishing tackle sales is tournament anglers.
Yeah.
So it's not like everyone wants to be a tournament angler. It's like everyone who drives a car doesn't want to race at Daytona. It's a different breed of people, right? But at the same time, we all like music. Doesn't mean we all have to be professional musicians to appreciate music. So let's cheer on, let's recognize our Canadian talent. Let's support our Canadian talent, even if it's not for the rest of us, in something we're setting our sights on. It's still, we should acknowledge and recognize and know about these people and celebrate their accomplishments and lament their, when they do bad, and help them pick themselves back up again. It's so important to, Canada is just making their way known down there, and it's fantastic. We got to support that.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Well said, Lawrence. But I will say, I'll ask you two this, and all kidding aside, perhaps, but when it comes to smallmouth, like I'd say the Canadian anglers have them pretty dialed in to a point where, do you think we'll get invited to any more of these bass tournaments that have smallmouth bass?
Well, no, Chris Johnson, he's a smallie guy, but what was that tournament he was fishing the other day? It was a classic, right? And it was all on largemouth, because it was the smallmouth were deep, and there was just, you couldn't get the big ones. The guy won it with a whole bunch of 5-pounders, and I not a whole bunch, but I think he got 5 in the last day. He went out to get 5 bites. He got 5 bites. They were all 5-pound in that class, and he won the classic. So it's not a guarantee that you need to be able to fish smallmouth to win these things. That's for sure.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that I listened to one thing about Cooper that fits my mold really well recently is, having during COVID especially, I listened to a lot of podcasts while I'm working. And, today he was on the Luke Duncan podcast. Tomorrow morning he's going to be on the Bass Talk Live with Matt Pangrac. And listening to Cooper talk about, and I put a link in the chat for Bass Talk Live in their YouTube channel. And, listening to Cooper talk today on the Luke Duncan podcast, talk about how he caught his fish, very, very reminiscent of how Gussie caught his fish in the Tennessee River last year for his elite victory. And, I know this was on Lake Cherokee, which is a different part of the Tennessee River, but in a very similar fashion, Cooper caught the smallmouth in deep water using drop shot and Demiki rigs off of rock piles. And I encourage everyone to listen to Bass Talk Live tomorrow. You don't have to listen to it tomorrow, because you can listen to once they do it, it's much like your YouTube channel, Scotty. Once they do it live, it's there forever. You can listen to it whenever you want. But, hearing Cooper, how he broke it down, it's exciting, because to know how well he has that technique dialed in, to know that Gussie used the same technique on the Tennessee River last spring in 2021 to win that elite event, and to know that that field is going to be in the same body of water next March for the Classic. That's really, putting things in favor for our Canadian anglers next March.
That's a good, never thought of that, Jay. That's good. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we did play a video in the very beginning in regards to the fish lift. I know you, Jay, have been a part of those for some time. Lawrence, I know you've done your fair share as well. But what can be said? I know just before we went to air, I noticed you shared a link, and hopefully I'll be able to doctor up that video and we can post it and make sure that we give kudos to the folks that are doing the work. But, what is so cool about those events, Jay?
It's just, I think what makes it great, Scotty, is there's not a more passionate group of people out there than hunters and anglers, and regardless of whether you work in the industry or you're just on the outside and you just like going fishing, people fish and hunt because they love it. It is their pastime. And to see them take stewardship of their pastime to help out fish in this case, Baltimore Creek, which is a cold water tributary of Lake Ontario. It's a tributary of Cobourg Creek. And, it doesn't get a lot of steelhead because of this old mill dam in Cobourg. And now that's a whole other discussion about dams in Southern Ontario. And there's actually been a real push to remove dams to allow more fish access to waters where they weren't before. But if it wasn't for anglers doing fish lifts like this in different areas of Ontario, we wouldn't have the fishing opportunities that we have when it comes to steelhead. Steelhead are a very adaptable and resourceful fish, and they can reproduce. If given the opportunity, they can really self-sustain a population. And we don't have stocking programs for steelhead very much in Ontario. We rely pretty much exclusively on natural reproduction. But these creeks have the ability to produce great numbers of steelhead. But in the case of Baltimore Creek and Coburg, it needs a little boost. And to see anglers getting involved, to see anglers of all ages in that video, boy, it just motivates me. Like, it really inspires me, and I love videos like that. I love events like that.
Couldn't agree more. And hopefully we've spawned, as we did with Emily and anybody else who's watching with those videos. And we're going to continue to post those videos at the beginning part of our segments. Laura, Steve brings up a great question that may not be echoed everywhere, but it is something that is starting to show up, and it's quite normal. And I know Jay can talk more about it, but we are noticing an abundance of rainbow trout this year with an extreme amount of gill lice. Should this be a concern for us, or is it just an indication of just how many there are?
It's a concern for sure. It's a concern, and you know, if you look at what's going on the West Coast around the aquaculture pens, you know, there's a government rule that says those fish in the pens shouldn't have more than 2 lice on each fish, and if they have more, they have to do something about it. Well, these fish, when you pull them out, they have 18, 20, you know, or more lice on them, and it impacts the smaller fish, right? When they're coming down in the spring out of the rivers into the lake, and they have to, you know, they can't manage that kind of infestation, right? They're delicate. They're not hardy. They're not robust enough to put up with that type of infestation. So this is a game changer for those small fish, for the smolts coming down, the salmon and the steelhead and all that. And so, yeah, this is a problem. What can we do about it? I don't know. But, you know, getting back to this dam thing, you know, what we're doing with these fish lifts, it's a selective lift, right? This is important. And that's because not all dams are evil. And I'll be the first one to say there's a lot of dams that should come out. They're just pointless, mainly because they slow the current down. They prevent the faster current from keeping the spawning beds clean and swept clean of silt. They keep the water backed up. It warms up in the summertime too much, so it doesn't stay cool enough. So there's a problem with dams for sure. There's a lot of orphan dams that just shouldn't be around anymore. But they also at the same time prevent things like that are in the Great Lakes from going up into other ecosystems, you know, things that shouldn't be up there, like sea lamprey, like goby, you know, and there's all sorts of other invasive species. We talked last week about grass carp and even common carp, right? And goldfish. So there's a lot of things we don't want to get up into the watershed that feeds the Great Lakes necessarily. So sometimes it's important to have dams. And I'll just mention quickly that there is some new technology coming along, and it's being experimented on in Michigan by the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission. They're putting a lot of money into this. It's a dam that's going to have it's going to use like face recognition software, artificial intelligence, to recognize the fish that are swimming into the fish ladder. And if it's not an acceptable species, the little chute switches position, and that fish is then put into a loop that puts it back into the lake, right? So it doesn't get to complete the ladder experience up and over the dam. And only those species that are selected to be desirable get to move on and up the ladder and over and into those prize spawning beds. So this type of technology, you know, to keep the lamprey, to keep some of the other less desirable species out of our watersheds, our rivers and tributaries is important. You know, dams are serving that purpose now. They weren't intended for that, but they are serving that purpose. And, you know, even some species, and there's some bodies of water, they just can't take the pressure of steelhead and Chinook and coho salmon going in there, these big brutes, you know, these big, powerful, dominant species that can just blow the socks off of other native species, right? So, yeah, so, you know, not all water should be wide open necessarily. We got to pick and choose, and we got to use science, and there's some cool things developing for sure.
Well, face recognition software for fish, holy smokes.
It's around, man. It works.
That's stepping up a notch, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
But I'm glad you said that point about the dams. I think we all jump on dams as the culprits when it comes to fish migration, water levels, you name it. But there are some good things that they do, and sometimes I think we bypass the good to point out the bad. But yeah, absolutely. But in terms of that, Lawrence, we were talking about impediments, and you're talking about some restrictions on the Great Lakes that are going to be discussed in the very near future if they aren't already.
Well, let's face it, we're supposed to have 30 by 30, by the year 2030, we're supposed to have 30% of our oceans and 30% of our terrestrial areas designated protected by the year 2030. This is not going to leave out the Great Lakes, right? We have 2 marine protection areas now in the Great Lakes, and these are fishing friendly marine protection areas. I was just reading over a resolution that the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission put forward, a series of resolutions they passed with their advisory committees to the US and Canadian governments saying, look, if you're going to think about marine protection areas on the Great Lakes, they have to be fishing friendly. You cannot just willy-nilly come in and declare large swaths of the Great Lakes as no-go zones when it comes to fishing, indigenous, recreational, commercial, whatever. You can't pick and choose. You shouldn't be able to pick and choose, and you shouldn't just, for no reason, no good, solid scientific reason, allow that to happen. And we've had people at the Fisheries Commission in Canada, at the Parliament, talking about this. We've had experts come up. We brought experts into Canada to talk about this to our parliamentarians. We have the example of what happened in California, where large areas of the coastline were declared marine protection areas and no fishing was allowed. And it really wiped out a lot of recreational fishing. And they said, well, this is temporary until we do the science. 5 years went by and they were supposed to do the science. They didn't. And then the 10 years went by, they didn't. And now they're saying they're not even going to do the science. So we have to be careful. We have to be a little bit engaged on this for sure. So Bluefish Canada and our Bluefish News, and we'll be getting involved with that. We're talking to experts now at the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission and others, and we'll be keeping everyone informed as much as possible on what's coming down the pipe, because we got to have a voice on this.
100%. And Jay, I know in our group chat, you share a lot of information and posts, links, this, that, and everything else. Where are some of the places, if folks want to become more engaged or maybe just more educated, they want to read up on stuff that is happening, where are some great resources that you can point them in the direction of?
Well, other than Big Jim, who shares great content all the time. It's like a lot of his, and it's not just orcas. But,
Killer whales.
I think sometimes the algorithms, that social media runs with, they're always listening. You hear this all the time, and I think they listen to I think they listen to my brainwaves sometimes, and I come across something that, wow, that is what I want to read about that. But for Canada and for folks in Ontario, I actually use Twitter a ton. Twitter to me is a great resource for news. And what's great about Twitter is that it's pretty much sharing a lot of the current content that's out there. And so Twitter outlets like Ontario Outdoors Magazine, OFAH, Outdoor Canada Magazine, they're always sharing news stories that really hits home with what we talk about on this show all the time, and for example, in my, I've said this before on the show, but in my background, I'm basically a science biologist, and I study rare and endangered fish. I study invasive species, and overall I look at fish community. I don't study sport fish. A lot of the sport fish content that I share and we discuss, I am exposed to that on a personal level, and I enjoy that. That's why I do the work that I do. But some of these news outlets are just great, and subscribing to newsletters. So, Bluefish Canada, go to the website, go to Lawrence's website, put your email address in there, Get the Bluefish News to your inbox and read the articles that are sent to you. Do the same for Ontario Outdoors. Do the same for OFAH. Any of those sort of news outlets will provide information all the time. And I can't say enough about it. And then, what's great about that is, and the way social media works is, let's say I come across a news article that I like, and I might go to YouTube and search. Remember, YouTube is the second most searched place on the web outside of Google, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll go to YouTube and I want to watch a video or listen to a video about that content. Well, then all of a sudden now I'm getting all the recommended videos to watch that are related to that content. So you want to go look at, like, recently there's been news, and I'll share a link in the chat, Scotty, talking about walleye regulation changes in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, it's becoming a big thing, a big talked about issue down in Minnesota. I can imagine the debates that are going on and some of the controversy that it's causing, but I think it's long overdue.
Yeah,
for those who know a thing or two about Minnesota walleye and how they're doing down there. Now, keep in mind, Jay, you and I can talk about all of the stocking that they do.
Yeah,
but they're recognizing that the pressure is starting to have a serious effect on their fisheries.
Well, and the video I just shared in the chat, it was produced by the folks over at Target Walleye, which the anglers and agency staff that are interviewed in the video all fish Minnesota. And especially if you love ice fishing, there's a bunch of anglers in that interview that I follow on YouTube all the time for fishing content. And to hear them talk about how they support the regulation changes, and I'll just give a quick synopsis. The walleye limit in Minnesota forever and a day has been 6 fish, I think, since the 50s.
Yep.
And they want to go to 4 fish. And a lot of the anglers in the know in Minnesota support it a lot. And in fact, a lot of anglers are even suggesting in the comments, if you go to that YouTube video that I shared, go through the comments. I like to read what other people are thinking. Yeah. And I was surprised how much the comments supported the change. And in fact, a lot of anglers are in the comments from outside of Minnesota. They're from the prairie provinces, Ontario, and they're saying we've had limits way less than 6 fish for years, and we would like to see even less. Like, let's talk about, like, there's possession of 4, but why can't it be 3 fish and then you're allowed 5 possession or something like that? Because the idea is that how much fish do you need to eat? Because if I take my family out fishing, I'm allowed, let's say, 4 fish each. That's 16 walleye. Holy moly. I don't need that many walleye. Like that is a ton of walleye to eat. But I like how the regs are being designed to encourage walleye conservation. And because the trouble with walleye is that they're not often released. That's the problem with them. They're too darn tasty, right? And so you almost have to force anglers to release walleye to help sustain populations. And even in that video, they talk about how, stocking is used to supplement in some locations, but the cost of stocking, it really just, it's the money's not there to do that. So we have to rely on natural reproduction to sustain. And that is a very well done video.
That in itself right there, Jay, is what is so concerning to me. And I'm so glad you brought that up, is that the our U.S. counterparts are starting to see that the economic, basically what they have to pay to produce all these fish is starting to not justify the cause. And that's a scary situation in a lot of those put and take fisheries that they have down there, that they are looking at that as a possibility, that maybe we need to pump the brakes. Maybe we don't need to stock as many fish. Maybe the natural recruitment is the way to go. And I would say for most of us up here, Lawrence, we would have to agree, no?
Oh, yeah. Like, when did the Ontario government make that decision, right? It's been 10 years, I think, when they started saying, look, we're not going to keep stocking this lake with walleye when there's so many other pressures on these fish survival. We're going to do it one more time. And then we're going to rely on regulations. And if the regulations aren't followed, and if the regulations, the best regulations we can come up with isn't going to keep the walleye in this southern Ontario lake, where they really walleye probably don't have any reason there be there in the first place because it's not their natural habitat, then they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
But I think people want to have conserved species. I think they want to preserve these different DNA species of fish, these native species. And, there's just so many different variants of walleye, of brook trout, a bass even, you have all these different variants. And when you have a closed ecosystem and the fish evolve in there over tens of centuries almost, or decades, they develop their own unique ability to survive unique situations. And that's going to be the answer to things that are going different, right? When the climate's changing like it is, and water temperatures are changing, and ice cover is changing, and species and invasives are changing, having a variation of different pools of DNA, native DNA, to is going to guarantee a better chance of surviving these changes. Because you just have one monoculture all coming out of a hatchery and all going into different lakes, and they're all the basic same DNA, and then something happens and they all just disappear. Poof. Right. 100%. That's
Yeah. One thing I want to add about these regulation changes, and I'm gonna put on my my controversial hat right now, okay? And George posted an article in the chat, George Morgan, our CFN correspondent from Lake Nipissing. So, but I've read the article George posted. I'm glad he posted it because I was going to bring this up.
Yeah.
Even the science suggests that 4 fish isn't enough because the average angler only keeps 2 fish, 2 walleye.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a change, you have to go 2 fish or less. Like if you want to see a change, a real positive change. So some of these regulation changes are socially appealing, but biologically may not make sense. And I can even go back to when steelhead numbers, regulation changes happened in Zone 17 along Lake Ontario, where it went from 5 fish to 2 fish. And there are biologists out there who study salmonids, steelhead, chinooks, cohos, that will suggest that, and I believe them because they know that 2 fish is not enough. It should go down to 1 fish or no fish. And to really see a positive impact on some of these fisheries. Now, not every creek is the same, but we can't manage every creek based on its own biology and ecology. We can't do that. We don't have the resources to study that. We don't have the ability to enforce that, to say that, well, there's a 2 fish limit on Bowmanville Creek and a 1 fish limit on Wilmot Creek. We can't do that. So we have to do things broadly just from an enforcement standpoint. But boy, it's tough to make these changes and to not, you want to make these fisheries more viable, but understand that sometimes these limit reductions are not enough. And some tough love is required at times. But I
agree. And much to Mike Howard's point, 5 20+ pound salmon a day. That's an awful lot of meat.
You buy that in the grocery store. What's that going to cost you, right? At $20 a pound? Yeah, that's $2,000 worth of salmon.
Yeah, right.
Who does that? No one does that. No one would go to a grocery store and buy 100 pounds of salmon.
Yeah.
Richard, you got a question. Does it seem like stock trout more than walleye? I think in Ontario, that's the case. And I only say that it's not that we don't have, how should I put this? A lot of the lakes where we see stocking in central and northern Ontario, they're not really good lakes for walleye. These are oligotrophic lakes that probably are better suited for lake trout, brook trout, and splake as opposed to walleye. Whereas in other jurisdictions like in Minnesota, a lot of those lakes are mesotrophic lakes, which are kind of in the middle of that fertility scale. And so they're really good at sustaining walleye and bass and muskie and northern pike, and not as good at salmonids. And so, I don't think that different agencies play favorites. I think they pick the species best suited for the lakes in which they're stocking. That's all.
And it's changing, isn't it? It's changing. Like Lake Huron and Michigan, used to have great salmon populations, and that's not the case anymore. These are nutrient poor lakes now, so
Yeah.
it's back to lake trout and Cisco, but why are walleye doing so well in Lake Huron? That's the big
So I
question.
was just going to say that. You know what? They're talking about these Great Lakes clearing up, but there's not as much nutrients yet. The anomaly right now is walleye.
Yeah.
Walleye in Lake Huron, and I'll say this, and I know Jay can attest. Its population is exploding.
Yeah, it's their tournaments, huge tournaments are starting to happen on Huron now for walleye.
100%.
Yeah, like I think we're just at a real tipping point for walleye populations in the lower Great Lakes. So that would include Lakes Erie, of course, and Lake St. Clair, but even the southern part of Huron, especially, and then even up into Lake Ontario, like some of the walleye that are coming out of and we know the Bay of Quinte, but Hamilton Harbor, Toronto Islands, there's some great walleye fisheries that are developing right now. And I think that in some of these places like Lake Huron, I think a lot of anglers there's a transition over to these species. Like I think a lot of people aren't going to target walleye in Lake Huron just yet, but maybe they should be because there's an opportunity there. And I think that sometimes it takes anglers time to shift over to that. But in saying that too, even Lake Erie, with as plentiful as walleye are, man, there can be some tough times depending what part of the lake you're in, guys. I know that when the walleye hatch finishes in that western basin, a lot of the fish will move from west to east. And, so areas like Erie, Port Glasgow, Port Stanley, Port Bruce, Port Burwell, like they all kind of almost like as you go from west to east, they all pick up in their sort of fishability, but then the fish have to make that big turnaround long point, and sometimes they don't turn the corner very well sometimes. And so anglers the last couple of years haven't done as well as years prior, even with as many fish as there are in Lake Erie. We're still victims of their movements and their in the water that they cover. But I think this angler's being more adaptive. I actually had a great conversation with a couple of friends who fish for walleye off of Port Maitland, which is the mouth of the Grand. And a lot of their fish are coming in less than 20 feet of water, less than 15 feet of water, dragging worm harnesses.
Nice.
So they're going to areas where we're not all going out to 70 feet of water, drop our lines down 30 feet and just dragging. You see a lot of anglers adjusting because the walleye are out there, but they're not doing what they always used to do.
No, I would agree, Jay. In the last 2 years, folks would argue that walleye didn't even show up in the Eastern Basin.
Yeah, but I know some people are doing really well out there, and I think there's an adaptation that has to happen to the anglers, and I think that probably needs to happen in Lake Huron as well.
Jeanette, I would say the panel would echo your sentiments. Yes, education, electronics for targeting walleye has made it easier. Has it put a hurt on more so than it would have if we were fishing the old-fashioned way? 100%. The one thing that most of us would agree, if you can find the walleye, you can get them to bite.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, like, I posted an article, and you can find in the Bluefish News, the last issue up on the Bluefish Canada website, the first scientific research that came out on this new sort of sonar, this visioning sonar, right, that Garmin brought out and Lawrence has now in Humminbird. Yeah. And they gave they got a test group and another user group, and they put them on the ice, and they studied the two groups all winter, and they switched out the spots, and they flip-flopped, and they did all this science, rigor to make sure the tests weren't biased. And in the anglers that use the fish spotting sonar under the ice didn't do much better than the ones that didn't, and not to a degree where it would suggest, and they were just focusing on crappie, but they did not get a significant advantage. Like, instead of the group without it, you got 16 fish on average per day, and the group with it got 17. So there's, I don't know if it's as, I think the people that buy this stuff, they're not looking to find faster ways to fill their freezer. If it was about food security and filling freezers and feeding hungry children and family and all that, they wouldn't go out and buy $3,000 or $5,000 worth of sonar, right? They just go fishing. The people that are fishing to feed their family because they're food insecure, they don't have the money to buy food. That's why they go and catch all and keep all the fish they can. The ones that are buying the stuff, they're fishing because they love to fish, not because they want to fill their freezer.
Agreed. Right. That's a great point. Great point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Lawrence. And I think too, to add to that, like the average angler, like you get a fish finder unit now. Okay. It does. Most of them have side scan, down scan, and regular 2D sonar and GPS mapping capabilities. The average angler that I fish with, and I fish with a lot of anglers of various skill levels, and I have a lot of local friends who go out and troll for walleye as an example. They basically use traditional 2D sonar. Some of them don't even really use their GPS a whole lot. They just go out to areas where this is where I've always caught, and they do well, But here I am where it's like, okay, side scan. Yeah. Okay. There's a rock pile 30 feet over there. I'm going to mark that with my GPS, going to switch screens, going to circle back around, get 20 feet off that rock pile. And I'm, no one, like the average angler's not doing that. We're not using those electronics to how should I say this, to maximize the harvest. They're not doing that. The average angler is not doing that. I believe you, Lawrence, when your example of ice fishing kind of hits that too, where people are still catching fish. It may not be as much of an advantage to the average angler as some people fear it will be.
And that's exactly what the study was pointing out. That it's not a game changer for just, put it in the hands of someone and all of a sudden they become, another Cooper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's a great way to end the segment, lads. No, not all of us can be Cooper. Not all of us can be Lawrence Gunthers or Barnucz. But the fact that we get to spend an hour with you on Mondays makes us feel good. So you know what? Yeah. But listen, gents, thanks so much for joining us as you always do each and every Monday, and all of the great topics that you bring. Looking forward to next Monday. Not sure what we're going to talk about, but if there is something that our folks are listening to tonight and they want talked about on Monday, the panel is willing to do that because we want to keep it exciting, interesting for you. If there's questions that did not get answered tonight that you want answered maybe next Monday or the Monday before. April right now, when it comes to content, is a tough month for CFN simply because a lot of the fisheries are closed. Those who are enjoying the rivers, God bless you. Maybe you're into some panfish, God bless you as well. We wish you nothing but the best and fill your boots. But in the meantime, we will be here next Monday to discuss more about fishing all across Canada. Lawrence, Jay, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah.
See you later.
Right on. And as a closeout, here is a word from our sponsor.
Gotta love Shimano products.
Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano. Have my Shimano hat here.
Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano. Gotta love Shimano. Shimano bag right here. Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano.
Shimano rules. Just using my new Shimano Convergence I picked up on the weekend. So, hey, that's a bonus.
Gotta love that new Shimano Symetra RH.
Gotta love Shimano.
Gotta love Shimano. Show off your Shimano flyers.
You gotta love your Shimano. Oh, what I say.
You always gotta love Shimano. Got my Shimano 2500 HG FX right here.
Shimano rules. Fish on, guys.